It had been raining that entire week in early October, the kind of slow, mournful rain that didn't so much fall as it simply lingered in the air. The old wooden beams of Evelyn Hart's home groaned gently with each change in the wind, like the house itself remembered too much. Evelyn, 67, stood barefoot by the kitchen window, her coffee cooling in her hand. She didn't drink it as much as hold it. Something to do with her hands, something warm to cradle when the silence got too heavy. She had lived in this house for nearly 3 decades, tucked into the hills of northern Pennsylvania. She had painted the shutters herself, planted every rose bush out back. She and Richard had chosen every light fixture, every knob, every piece of weathered charm. But Richard was gone now. 3 years, 2 months, and 19 days. She'd stopped counting after the first year, but the number still curled around her in the dark. This morning, though, something was different. She had woken up to the sound of a crow outside her window, its call sharp, urgent. There had been an ache in her ring finger, not from arthritis but something more spectral. She looked down at the band of gold that had sat there for 27 years. The edges had softened with time. The engraving inside had faded. It had become less a symbol and more a weight. By noon, she stood in front of the bathroom mirror, the ring clutched in her palm. She whispered, "I'm not betraying you, Richard. I'm just tired of hiding behind memories." She slid it off. The skin underneath was paler, marked, like it had lived in shadow. And for the first time in years, Evelyn felt something stir in her chest. It wasn't joy. Not yet. But it was something. That afternoon, she walked into town for the first time in months. She didn't drive. She wanted to feel the pavement under her shoes, the crisp bite of the October air against her skin. The sidewalks glistened from the morning rain, and the sky had begun to clear in patches of soft blue. The little bookstore on Main Street had changed hands, now run by a woman half her age named Fiona who wore mismatched earrings and smelled like cinnamon. Evelyn browsed the shelves, not intending to buy anything, until her hand landed on a worn poetry collection. The spine cracked when she opened it. A pressed leaf fell from the pages. She bought it without another glance. Later, Evelyn sat on a bench outside the shop, flipping through the book. A poem on page 47 read, "We do not forget. We evolve. We carry the loss not as a wound, but as a map to where we've been." She closed her eyes. She didn't cry. The tears had dried up years ago. What came instead was a deep, swelling breath, the kind she hadn't taken since before the hospital, before the machines, before the long nights of waiting for news that would never be good. That night she didn't cook dinner. She didn't tidy the kitchen or fold laundry. She poured herself a glass of wine, lit a candle, and sat at the piano, Richard's old piano. Her fingers hovered above the keys. Then slowly, cautiously they began to play. She hadn't touched it since the funeral. She wasn't good. The notes stumbled. But the music filled the corners of the house like a memory waking up. She smiled, her fingers remembering. It felt like visiting a language she once spoke fluently. A version of herself that had gone quiet. Over the next few weeks she played more. More. She painted again. Not landscapes or still lives, but pieces filled with color and confusion. Emotions she couldn't name, swirled into brushstrokes. The local gallery called. Would she be willing to showcase some of her new work? "I'm not a real artist," she said. "You're more real than most," the curator replied. The opening night arrived quicker than she expected. Evelyn stood by her work, nervous in a velvet dress she hadn't worn since her niece's wedding. The ring was still off. Her hands looked elegant, fragile, but unburdened. People came. They asked her questions. They complimented her palette, her depth. A man around her age said, "Your piece with the broken umbrella. It reminded me of something I've forgotten." "That's the best compliment I've had in years," she said, surprised at her own sincerity. After the gallery closed, she walked home alone under a night sky so clear it looked painted. And when she entered her house, it didn't feel like a mausoleum. Felt like a beginning. She placed the ring in an old jewelry box and tucked it into the top drawer of her nightstand. It wasn't rejection. It was reverence. That winter, Evelyn learned how to make ginger scones. She started volunteering at the library. She began writing letters to her sister again. On New Year's Eve, she lit a single sparkler on the front porch, grinning like a girl. And sometimes, just before sleep, she'd press her fingers to the bare spot on her ring finger. It still tingled. Not with sadness, but with a soft, beautiful ache, like remembering how to breathe.